So this software designer has 10 years of experience, hasn't done anything in a whole year, and you told them your expectations and they still haven't done anything. If Elon Musk was managing this team, this designer would be fired, no question. But you're not Elon Musk. So this is what a manager should do given this situation. And I have a question for you. How would you want to be approached if you face this situation? Hi there, my name is Ahmed. I am a technical director, previously a software manager who managed 40 software engineers. Every week I go to Reddit, specifically the managers subreddit, to help other managers with their problems. The problem that caught my attention this week was a new manager who was appointed to manage 2 software designing teams. Those teams were not performing well, partly because they had no leader or manager to guide them. According to this manager, however, when they came into the job, they started performing well just 1 month after their appointment because he or she managed to communicate expectations and guide this team, except for one person. So this one person has 10 years of experience as a software designer, 4 years alone in this company when they were hired as a senior software designer. They haven't done anything in the whole year just before this manager took over, apparently because they didn't know what was expected of them and they had no idea what they need to do, which I don't buy, but because I cannot prove otherwise. However, I still think it's highly unlikely that that was the reason why they couldn't perform. However, this is where it gets interesting. So when this new manager took over, they communicated and documented their expectations of this designer, and together they created a plan on how to bring this designer up to speed, up to the right performance that they expect of them. This was documented, but still this senior software designer hasn't done anything in a whole month, but they claim they're making progress. Even though nobody can see their work, they haven't pushed it, so the manager cannot verify it, nor other team members. And this manager does not know now what they need to do given this situation. So this situation is very common. Any manager would face this situation sooner or later. And not handling this correctly damages the team, damages the organization, and eventually, and most importantly, you, your career, and perhaps your reputation as well. Having to confront these situations with any employee who's not performing can be very hard, because eventually you have to play around with the idea that you need to fire them. It's not easy, especially if it's your first time. However, what makes it easier for you to handle them are these, in my opinion, 3 steps that you can apply almost in any situation, or at least 80% of them, with any employee who's underperforming and underperforming consistently as well. Starting off, the first step is communicating and documenting your expectations with your employees or this particular employee. And to be fair, there are many employees who underperform indeed due to not knowing what they need to do. There are those who actually, once they know what they need to do, they perform well. As a result, regardless whether someone is underperforming or not, always communicate your expectations with your employees and your team members. Better yet, even document it. Let's say you're a new manager taking over a new team, document your expectations and share them with the whole team. That way, nobody can say they have not received that document or nobody communicated that with them. However, what I don't see happening enough is when you are facing this situation with someone who's underperforming, that you don't communicate the consequences of their low performance with them. For example, if I have someone who's really underperforming and has done so consistently and frequently and for a long time, when I sit with them to confront this situation, I have to be frank with them saying that, hey, if this goes on, I will have no other choice but to terminate your contract with the team. It's not something I want to do, and I want to avoid it with you. This is something that I see lacking consistently or frequently when managers face employees with similar situations. Communicate that with them along with your expectations and what you need them to do, because they need to understand the gravity of what's going on or what will happen with them. In this case, however, this manager communicated expectations. They created a plan with this employee that both parties agree on. What I would just add here is involve HR in this process, because for 2 reasons. Number one is you want to do things according to the company's policies as well. So it's always important to involve them, ensuring that what you're doing is protecting the company on one side, but also protecting the employees' rights, so that, as managers, sometimes we may act harshly, we may act also quickly without realizing, hey, we might be practicing our authority incorrectly. HR hopefully is protecting that employee's rights as well. So involved in that process. Step 2, which is the improvement plan. So after you communicate expectations and consequences, just like what this manager did, is also document and create an improvement plan. That improvement plan now, aside from the expectations, It needs to address what are the tasks that they need to do, how much of that task they need to do in a given month or in a given year, how quickly they should be able to complete these tasks, and also one-on-ones with this between the manager and this employee, just to ensure that this employee knows that their manager is accessible, they're getting the right support and guidance in case that they can complete the task, but they need more guidance until they can, act more independently. Get that plan documented, share it to an official communication method, for example, like an email. And again, involve HR. If your HR is part of that process within your company, it really depends from one company to another, and different HR policies may apply differently depending on your company. In most cases, though, I see this being applicable, so do involve them. You want that third party to be there, just making sure that everything is done fairly and everyone's rights are being protected. If that employee now is following that improvement plan, great. You adjust the situation, that you brought them up to speed, they're performing up to your expectations and the company's expectations and their salary as well, because don't forget that they're being paid, so there must be an ROI from that employee and each employee within the organization. However, in the unfortunate case that they still have not improved, the third step would be taking action. The question is, however, how can you take that action? And before I even answer that question, we need to understand why is it important to take action. If you don't take action when it's necessary, when you're left with no other option because you've exhausted everything within your power to correct the situation and still hasn't improved, you're basically telling your team that I can tolerate this behavior, I can tolerate this performance, even though I've done everything to correct it, I'm still not doing anything about it. And as a result, it sets or sends a message to the rest of the team members that, hey, maybe I too can get away with that. Again, this is a huge assumption, but it does set the tone within the team and the culture of the team eventually. Now, some employees are self-driven. It will not impact them whatsoever if they see someone else underperforming, but you cannot make that assumption that everyone is self-driven. As a manager, you have to instill that within your team rather than make the assumption that everyone has that sense of delivery or ownership within the team. So how should you now take action? Since you documented expectations and created an improvement plan, which is now documented, you can easily make decisions that are objective and measurable for yourself and everyone involved in the situations, hence this employee. Ask yourself, did things go according to plan? Did that software designer complete their tasks? Did you give them enough chances? And when the work was not completed, were there valid reasons that prevented them from actually completing their work? If things did not go according to plan, they did not complete their tasks, you gave them enough chances, and they did not communicate anything that actually prevented them from completing that work, then I think you can easily document all these things. And then when you actually face them to share the unfortunate news that you may have to let them go, all these reasons can actually be proven and they're measurable and can be documented and shared with them. As awkward as it could be having that conversation, you can just rely on the evidence to do the talking on your behalf, making it way more easier for you to actually share that news. You can easily say, hey, we agreed on this, but you haven't done anything. These are the reasons, and I'm left with no other option but to do this because I really wanted to avoid this situation. And those are the 3 steps to face these situations and handle these kind of low performances and what you need to do about them eventually. But I would love to know other approaches by other managers. And better yet, I would love to know and hear from employees themselves. Do you think this is harsh? Do you think this is fair? How would you want to be approached if you face this situation?